precision management doesn't only apply to dairy management, it's at the core of financial management at McCarty Family Farms. We caught up with David McCarty at World Dairy Expo to learn how his family business has transformed from the days of running numbers on a yellow notepad to complex KPIs that give a true picture of both cow performance and profitability, and how these tools, combined with consistent genetic advancements in the herd, are leading to longer living, more profitable, and more resilient cows at McCarty Family Farms. All that and more today on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Zoetis. As the world's leading animal health company, Zoetis is dedicated to helping producers achieve healthy animals, healthy dairies, and healthy food through their world-class portfolio. For more information, visit dairywellness.com. So David, I get to finally sit down with you. Been to the McCarty Family Farms dairies and met with your brothers, even your dad. Yeah. And we've captured some pretty incredible conversations that have touched different sides of the business, from genetics and cattle to barn and technology, and really the bigger vision of the future. And most recently, a conversation in the preparation for the award that you and your family recently received here at World Dairy Expo, and that was Dairy Producers of the Year. So congratulations to you and your family on that prestigious honor.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
And you know, David, for folks that aren't familiar with the story of McCarty Family Farms, it's really one that is unique and also very inspiring. And you know, starting with Tysell Barn in Pennsylvania 25 years ago, leaving that Century Farm to move to Kansas, and from there building out a dream, building out a business, and building out a future for the four of you brothers to continue to move forward. And within that, multi-site dairy in Ohio. But I want to start out this conversation by getting to know you and your story.
I moved to Kansas before the rest of my family moved to Kansas. That was in 1998. In one of our trips out, when we were trying to decide where to relocate in Kansas, we stopped and visited Kansas State University. I fell in love with the university, so I made the decision at that point I was going to go to school at K-State regardless. Met a lot of influential faculty members that helped us design and build dairies, cash flows, etc. So they were pretty instrumental in our growth. Still are to this day. We still work with those guys. But I graduated K-State in 2002, went back to the home farm. At that point, we were milking about 700 cows, 1,000 cows maybe. There was a little too much McCarty there at that point in time. So I had an opportunity with one of the advisors I had at K-State to go run another dairy. And I spent 10 years away from the family operation, running a 7,000 cow dairy. It's where I was able to pick up a lot of the business side. It was a very established dairy and an established group. So I was able to take some of their ideas and some of their accounting practices and bring that back to our home operation. I came back there in 2011 and assumed the responsibility of the financials, the budgets, and things like that. And along with that, I brought our banking relationship that we use today, as well as the attorneys that we work with today, and several other business contacts that I was able to make when I was away from the farm.
So you're a numbers guy.
I'm a numbers guy.
You're a numbers guy, but you're still kind of a cow guy too, aren't you?
I'd much rather be with the cows than the numbers, but I think I drew the short straw on that. And I'm the numbers guy, and usually the guy that my brothers don't want to deal with every day.
But I would add to that, from what you shared too, that key partnerships are something you brought to the table. You mentioned working with bankers and attorneys. And so you had that experience, as you said, when you were managing a different dairy. And when you came back with that arsenal, now, not just the cow sense, not just the numbers sense, but then also this understanding of what does it take to really professionalize this business and move it forward. That must have brought an incredible value at that time too. Where was McCarty Family Farms at that point when you did come back?
We were yellow notepad people at that point, right? And that's how we paid our bills. That's how we knew if we made any money or not. You know, working in the past off of a yellow notepad. So we had a huge transition to QuickBooks, to an accounting team, to an HR team, in the midst of growing the business. So it was challenging, very much so. But Dan and our relationship has helped to develop that. We've become much better business people in that regard. Those relationships obviously helped establish a foundation of how we needed to manage the numbers and manage the books. But it was quite a transition. That was my mom's role when we got back. So to shift from the yellow notepad, to a much more higher level accounting system, there was lots of challenges with new people as well. So it was some challenging times, but it's where we needed to take the business, and we knew that. It's really made us much better business-wise than we were before.
And what did you learn about expectations of a good lending partner? Because I would imagine, too, around that time you came back, you guys were gearing up to do some pretty big things and really move the family business forward.
We were challenged by our lender at that point in time to become a price maker, not a price taker. And I think you've heard us bring that up before. And as we approached that and tried to develop the relationship with Dan and other people, we finally found that relationship with Dan, and we were able to take that back and challenge our lender at that point and said, hey, we found that situation, become a price maker, not a price taker, and we're going to need to borrow some money to do that.
What I'm picking up here, though, David, is that one of the most influential movements and partnerships that McCarty Family Farms had was this relationship that started with Danone. And you're pretty pivotal in making that happen, weren't you?
Yeah, it's been, we were dairy farmers at that point in time, and we had to shift to being much more business minded at that, with that relationship. We were able to do that, with the help of a lot of good partners. But it's our lenders and their ability to believe in us, in what we were doing at that point in time, building a milk processing plant on site. And they took a chance with us, which is, obviously they believed in who we were and what we were trying to accomplish at that point. And here we are, 15 years later with a much bigger operation than we ever anticipated.
And, seeing is believing, right?
Absolutely.
And it's something that can be seen now when I've been out to the farm, you can see the results of what was years of just, learning, growing, professionalizing the business, those key relationships. And that's what the setup and the landscape is at McCarty Family Farms, at that Kansas Rexford location in particular, that you can see today. And when you really also look at what else does it take to get that buy-in. There's the numbers that look good on paper, but then there's something to be said about the history of overcoming challenges, of just building resiliency from a business side, but it also takes that at the core, like a core value of your family. And so, when we visited your brothers and I for a podcast in honor of the recognition you received here at World Dairy Expo, if there was one theme that kept coming back up and standing out, it is that word resiliency. And what does it mean to you? What does that word mean to you, David?
I looked up the definition of resiliency last night, and it's responding quickly to an overwhelming experience, and we've been able to do that as a group. As a family, the four of us have always been slightly competitive. I think that has helped develop that. In fear of failure, we're not a group that likes to fail. With the four of us, it's always about winning. And one of those traits to accomplish that is resiliency. And I don't know if it's a core value, but it's definitely something that we thrive off of.
Well, so I'm going to ask you to do something that your dad would tell you not to do, and that's look in the rearview mirror for a moment here. Let's just take a glimpse back at the last 5 years or so and really hone in on what are some of the biggest challenges? What are some of the biggest things that you feel you have faced that built some additional resiliency in McCarty Family Farms as a business, as a brand, as a family?
Well, as we all know, the last 5 years have been pretty challenging. COVID would be the biggest headline in that. And, there was a lot of unknowns during that time frame, and we didn't, no one knew what was coming next. So we relied heavily on the relationships that we had with, whether it was our lender, whether it was Danone, but things have changed. And, from a business perspective, we're much more aggressive when it comes to hedging and those areas, just because we don't know the world we live in today. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And they could be pretty market changing conditions. So from a business perspective, we focus a lot more on making sure that we are eliminating risks regularly, and those risks continue to change in the world that we're in, especially over the last 5 years. So whether it's our breeding strategy, right, to develop that and create that resiliency in our cows, whether it's the hedging program to make sure that we, accomplish our financial goals that we want to accomplish. But our business has had to really, I guess, improve in our resiliency because we are in completely different market conditions than we have been prior to that. When we started the Danone relationship in 2012, crazy markets in 2012, very difficult to manage. And then everything was really quiet for about 10 years until COVID hit. And the world's kind of been upside down and a lot different since that point.
You were in an even tighter position because you guys were just starting a new build, correct? And so just reflect on that for a moment as well, of that piece of what COVID, how COVID laid out challenges for you and your family. What was that like?
Well, being the financial guy, I can assure you it wasn't a fun time. Every time I turned around, I had one of my brothers telling me how much more it was going to cost. So we completely blew our budget on what we thought it was going to take to build that facility. So that in itself was a big challenge, but through the committed relationship with our lender, with Danone, we were able to work through that. But a lot of unexpected challenges in that time frame, especially from a financial perspective.
So just a whole different set of things to work through. And, I think oftentimes as you talk about COVID and with other dairy producers, they're thinking about the impacts on, like you said, maybe it was a building project, maybe it was a milk market at the time and some questions there. But in your unique position, you don't just have the dairy, you also have a plant.
Yeah.
And how did that play in to, keeping not just a dairy running, but a plant running with a milk condensing plant that's right across the road there in Rexford? How'd that play into the picture?
Well, we were pretty fortunate. We are in the middle of nowhere, as you know. You've been out there. So that was very beneficial during that time frame. But we had a good team, and we had a good plan. We were able to, mitigate the COVID challenges. I would say what came out of that was the challenges with relationships and just how we do business. We were very much meetings and face-to-face interaction prior to that. And that was easy for us. And then we shifted to remote, to Teams, to different ways to communicate with people. And that's still a challenge to this day. I don't think that's been perfected in how we do that, especially when you're working with a bunch of guys that aren't very tech savvy. That's challenging as well. But we definitely do business much different than we did business prior to that.
And, I can't also help but think when you reflect again on that challenging time, there's also the fact that you're setting the tone for 250 employees.
I think during that time frame, there was just so many unknowns that work and coming to the office or the dairy was actually something that was stable and consistent for people, and I think that was good.
So lots to be learned from that time as a business and as a team, right? As a company, and we've talked about it from that angle. But going back to that key word, resiliency. It's something that you're not just building into the culture. It's something you're breeding into the herd.
Absolutely.
And so, so when you really look ahead at McCarty Family Farms and the expectations that you have for the business and the expectations that your key partnerships have for the cows and the way that they will produce milk in a sustainable way that's also profitable for you. What do you think What do you think that means for the cows? What's expected of the cows at McCarty Family Farms?
Well, we've been working extensively on a genomics program for the last 10 years, and we've been able to continue to hone in on better and better health traits that lead to lower carbon footprint, lower emissions factors, in a cow that's going to stick around in our operation. And that partnership's been critical in that success. It also creates a level of predictability, which is important to what I do. As we see annual genetic improvement, that correlates directly back to what we see in the tank. And, being able to predict that increase in solids, for example, year over year, for what we do is just makes my life a lot easier. It helps us overcome the annual increases in every other operational expense that we have, knowing that our cows are going to perform better year after year after year. So we've been very fortunate in that we have closed herd, and that herd has it's just been on a rocket ship in regards to genetic improvement. So and the Zoetis partnership's been critical in that.
And putting that next to the current conditions of our market. So you said you're a closed herd. You don't have to buy cattle anymore, right? But you did before. For one, I think there's a couple points here. What does it mean from a genetic standpoint to have a closed herd? Mm-hmm. But then also from a financial standpoint.
I've made this comment before. We used to dairy with a hatchet, and now we dairy with a scalpel. And I think that is there's a lot to that, whether it's from the resiliency of the cattle, but we've been able to just improve so much that we've become so predictable. Our cull rate's low. Our reproductive success is off the charts. And knowing all those metrics, those numbers, it has almost become a widget maker in what we do. I know exactly what those cows are going to do next year. We've just been able to really create a predictive model in that regard.
And it goes back to what you shared before, the price maker versus price taker, controlling one more controllable. And now that's something that you feel like you can make those models off of. And being able to really kind of control that part of the business.
Yeah, absolutely. When we moved into the Danone relationship, the biggest benefit that we've been able to gain out of that was removing the market up and downs, right? And not just from a price perspective, but from a mentality. When markets are down, typically dairymen make bad decisions. They cut things that or the long-term goal or the long-term success of the group for a short-term win. I understand that. In this model, we've been able to put a plan in place, act on that over several years with a closed herd, with our genetics program. It's become very predictable year after year. And like I said, taking out those ups and downs in the market allows you to just really focus on what your goals are long term, and that's led to a tremendous amount of success, tremendous amount of improved performance with the cows, whether it's a cull rate that's dropped tremendously over the last couple of years, whether it's our reproductive success, the list just goes on and on.
Yeah. And you touched a little bit on some of the key traits that you're looking at, the longevity, the health traits. But, in your world, especially of being a direct communication to Danone and their value on sustainability as a bigger picture, can you just tie that a little bit together too, as far as the traits that are really building out the genetics of the cattle and how that is valued as part of the future of the partnership with Danone?
Absolutely. Sustainability is a huge part of our business. Through the genomics program, being able to incorporate better and better health traits, reducing emissions through those better health traits, reducing feed intake, honing in on the right cow that creates the right product for our end user, as well as is good for the environment. We have that ability now. In general, in the marketplace, it's become a lot more prevalent, of course. Super important. We're all in on that. And, whether it's through how we handle our waste streams or our genetics program, they're all with the same vein of improving our sustainability.
And again, it goes back to the other keyword we've been honing in on today, resiliency.
Absolutely.
And in building up the herd, the financial statements and positioning to be able to continue to grow. And as you think about that, you can't help but remember that 25 years ago, that's when it all started in Kansas for you and your family.
Yep.
That was leaving Pennsylvania behind and over time building out a business that would offer something that you and your three brothers wanted to come back to, and you all did. That was something that your parents were able to have the foresight for. You were involved in building out those opportunities. Well, now there's another generation of McCartys coming in, isn't there?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, and a couple of them are yours.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember the feeling I had when I walked into our concrete, brand new double 12. We were milking in a tie stall barn when we moved out from Pennsylvania. And I thought, man, I'm in heaven here, like brand new double 12, and we can expand it to a double 24.
Oh,
It was fantastic, and we've been able to, with what we've created now, I see whether it's my kids or whether it's my brother's kids, they walk into the new facility and you see that same look. Hopefully it's the same feeling, right? But being able to create that, that's what my parents did for us. I think we've been able to recreate that for them. So hopefully there's interest, and hopefully we get some out of the 11 to come back. So pretty optimistic.
well, and in that ability to create those opportunities, they're going to look different than the ones that brought you and your brothers back. And some of that is because the dairy industry runs off of different things than it did before. So much more technology. These conversations about, as you said, sustainability wasn't a word that you used at the dinner table, right? And now it's part of your everyday language. But it is a word that connects to a future generation. Do you think so too?
Absolutely. We walk around the expo here the last few days, and I pointed that out to my daughters. Look around, look at the technology. It's every vendor out there is trying to push another advancement to you. And I think that's, we're speaking their language, which is exciting. When we came out to Kansas, we wanted to milk cows, and that's what we wanted to do. Clearly that's transformed into a lot of different things. And with that growth, what I think is important, what I tell my kids, anything you want to be fits, right? You enjoy sustainability. Great. We need it. You like human resources. Need that too. We have a communications team that I never thought I'd have that, and we have TikToks that have millions of views. Never thought I'd have that. So, the sky's the limit. For my kids, when we walk around the expo here, I pointed out to them, as you look at robotics, like we're not going to be milking cows the way we are today when they come back to the operation. So if their interest is something like robotics, I have a place for that, and that's really been satisfying to us, is that, you don't have to be a cow guy to come back to our operation. We have such a wide variety of things for them to take on and still be an owner of the company, which is exciting because they're going to have a ton of opportunities.
Yeah, so opportunities galore, and it goes back to what you said earlier today in our conversation, David, about that view that your dad always said, look through the windshield and not in the rear view mirror. And again, as you look through that windshield, we just touched on the opportunities you see for youth, for your own daughters in particular. And I'm going to come back again to that word resiliency. So what do you see when you look ahead for what resiliency means to you in your role at McCarty Family Farms?
Well, we've been, over the last 25 years, been able to create a very resilient operation, right? Whether it is through our genetics program, financially, sustainability, all of those different platforms. That is a much bigger opportunity than we had when we came out here. I didn't really realize that then, but they have a platform to be able to do anything they want to do. We have milk processing. Maybe it's finished goods down the road, right? There's just a tremendous amount of things that they can take on. And we have the ability, we have the team members that are already in place to accomplish those things. So exciting times. I hope they realize that.
Yeah.
So.
Aw. Well, David, it's been a pleasure to get to sit down with you here at World Dairy Expo and have a conversation about your story, what got you where you're at, and also that vision for the future, not just for you and McCarty Family Farms, but also for your next generation as well.
You just heard from David McCarty of McCarty Family Farms. His story is proof that with a plan, partnerships, and perseverance, there's no limit to what a dairy family can build. Thanks for listening to the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. Don't forget to follow, rate, and share. As always, keep on growing, keep on learning, and up-leveling your dairy. This episode is brought to you by Zoetis as the world's leading animal health company. Zoetis is dedicated to helping producers achieve healthy animals, healthy dairies, and healthy food through their world-class portfolio. For more information, visit dairywellness.com.